my God, guys, I just finished watching Friday Night Smackdown the night after, several nights after WrestleMania, and Tama Tonga has finally made his debut in WWE. It had been rumors that they were trying to get him to come to with the company, and what a way that he did, and a really, really good episode of SmackDown coming off of WrestleMania. Cody kicks off the show. I mean, just a lot went down tonight. AJ Styles is having a WrestleMania rematch with LA Knight. So just as I expected that he was gonna win the triple threat, like LA Knight won the first triple threat with Santo Escobar and Bobby Lashley, which was pretty good. But I definitely think the main event that we just seen with LA with Kevin Owens, Rey Mysterio, and AJ Styles was definitely the better triple threat, and AJ won it. And I definitely think AJ's gonna win next week because that's a money match with AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes at Backlash in France. I definitely think that'll more than likely happen. I can definitely see them going that direction for sure. But man, this my goodness, the excitement that really took a turn. Paul Heyman comes out. He says how they're not going to hold anybody. They're going to take accountability for what happened at WrestleMania. They're not going to blame The Rock. They're not going to blame John Cena. They're not even going to blame Jey Uso for what happened. But the simple fact that, you know, he referenced WrestleMania 39, that at that WrestleMania, Cody took his eyes off the ball. And by being focused on Solo, it caused them to lose and for Roman Reigns to retain. But this year, when Roman had the chair in his hands and the perfect opportunity to smash Cody, he got distracted looking at Seth Rollins from trying to get the revenge of 10 years ago when Seth turned on the Shield and hit him in the back of a chair, which, when I think about it, the moment came in full circle, but I feel like what most people are seeming to forget is the fact that Roman already did that 2 years ago at the Royal Rumble. Like, I don't know why they choose to ignore that. At the Royal Rumble 2 years ago, when Roman Reigns faced Seth Rollins, he got disqualified. He held him in a guillotine. He wouldn't let go, so the ref kept counting, and he got disqualified. And so after the match was over, he took the chair and he clocked Seth with it. So he had already done that 2 years ago. So why do it again? Like, I know it was WrestleMania, but that I won't forget. I feel like most people have left that under the radar that Roman, technically did that already 2 years ago at the Royal Rumble when he faced Seth Rollins. Because that's when Seth was getting inside of his head, coming into the ring with the Shield music. And at the end of the match, he couldn't put Seth away, so he held him in a guillotine and he wouldn't let go, and the ref was, telling him to let go, was counting, and then he still wouldn't let go, so he got disqualified, and then he grabbed the chair and clocked Seth with it. So that already happened. But anyway, he was saying that, because of that, Roman was distracted. But before he could even finish talking, Solo stopped him and he said, you said there's consequences for losing. And then, you know, Paul got scared, and then Solo uh, mentioned that, you know, being in his consequences for losing, that I mean, that wins matter, that winning matters. Basically the same thing Paul Heyman had said to him backstage, because first they saw that their locker room had got taken by Cody Rhodes, and Paul was telling them that they're gonna have to earn that back. The championship will have to come back to the bloodline for them to get their locker room back, because it showed a camera shot after Cody cut his promo at the start of the night, basically mentioning about the challenge that was going to happen for his title, that he went from the hunter to the hunted, and mentioned for each of the guys, he was basically ready to, you know, to go against anyone, and it definitely was a heartfelt moment for him. First, of course, mentioned The Rock and their whole feud, and the fact that you know that once The Rock was back or whatever, they would get things going. But in this instant, he told Solo, told Paul Heyman, pushed him aside, said, "Wait, uh, you said their wins do matter, right? So there's consequences for losing." So he pushes Paul to the side. Then he looks at Jimmy. And, when this happened, it's just crazy because first he hugged him. He said, "You're my brother. I love you." And I knew something was about to happen because the way he looked at Jimmy, Jimmy's like, "What?" Out of nowhere, here comes Tama Tonka, the guy who, in which, they had been saying was, was gonna. They were trying to get. I think it was Booker T who was trying to get him to come to WWE. He had just left Japan, because he wanted to be more with his family. And out comes Tama Tonka, attacks Jimmy Uso, and about what was it, three spikes that Solo hit Jay with, and the fans started chanting "Yeet" as if, I mean, not Jay, excuse me, Jimmy hit Jimmy with like three spikes. The fans started chanting "Yeet" like Jay was gonna come out, and of course that did not happen. And then he set up a chair and ran across Jimmy with the chair, um, and it was pretty crazy. I mean, Paul Heyman didn't know what was going on. Paul Heyman was afraid. Uh, then when he was about to call Roman, Solo took and stomped on Paul Heyman's phone. I mean, it was chaotic. Solo took and stomped on Paul Heyman's phone, and Paul just looked terrified. I mean, Paul, this is probably the scariest I've seen. He looked scared. I mean, he didn't know what was going on. Solo took and stomped on his phone when he was about to call Roman, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Jimmy just, gets beat up and basically kicked out. I guess you could say the bloodline at this point, which, I pretty much suspected would happen because Jimmy has been a punching bag, ever since he rejoined with them. I never really got the point of, you know, after he cost Jay the title at SummerSlam against Roman, after he, turned on Jay, and he was the first guy who struck first at Roman at Night of Champions. He was the one who, struck at Roman at Night of Champions. And it took Jay a while to get on board, but it was Jimmy who struck first. And then Jay eventually joined him, and then they beat Roman and Solo at the main event of Money in the Bank, where Jay was the one who pinned Roman. And so to go through all of that just for him to turn on Jay and then try to get right back with the group. And when he got with the group, I mean, like I said, he was losing constantly over and over again. So it was only a matter of time before Jimmy was going to, eventually be the one to be thrown out. But what's interesting about this situation, though, is you start to wonder, does this mean the Usos, when the draft happens, does this mean that they get back together? Like, where does Jimmy go from here? Does he feud with Solo and Tama Tonka now? Tama Tonka is not blood related, but he's considered his family. He's the son of Haku. Um, and so it was nice to see him, come out. I'm familiar with him also because of him being one of the original members of the Bullet Club. He was one of the guys that actually stayed, with the group even when different leaders got involved. He was one of the originators of that group of the Bullet Club in New Japan. So I'm very familiar with who he is. And even in TNA, when they were still going under the name Impact, him and his brother had a match against the Good Brothers where they were exclusively kicked out of the group. I believe that was at what was it, Sacrifice back in 2022. I want to say it was Sacrifice that happened, or was it No Surrender? And you know what? Nah, it wasn't sacrifice. I think it was no surrender. That was at no surrender when that happened. But but yeah, man, it was a big moment. Um, the crowd, was chanting, going crazy when he came out. So they had to bleep, what they said. Of course, I'm not going to repeat what they were saying, but you already know. Uh, and yeah, man, it was a big moment, and I gotta say, this was quite a way to bring him. I'm glad that they didn't do it at WrestleMania though, only because it definitely would have, really killed the moment having yet again somebody else come out from the family and screw, Cody out the title just like last year. But this time, this was just very interesting because he actually, attacked, Jimmy, and Jimmy was basically kicked out of the group. So, well, not just kicked out, but Solo just completely turned on him, and he said, "I love you," as he was doing it. So it was pretty crazy, and Paul just looked completely confused. He didn't know what to think of it, and even when Caleb Braxton tried to interview him backstage and asked him about Jimmy's condition, he was scared. When Tama walked up to him and said, "By orders of the tribal chief," and Paul's trying to figure out what does that mean. So it's almost like he was saying Roman, you know, told them to do that to Jimmy, which, like I said, if you think about it, Jimmy, you know, has basically been a punching bag. But, I'm really interested though to see what does this mean for Solo too. When we start seeing Solo, he says about how wins, because Solo hasn't done any better. It's just that Solo, he's been more of a help to Roman, but Solo, ever since he beat Cena, he's been losing a lot too. The difference though is that with Jimmy, ever since he like rejoined with them, he's been losing like constantly. I can't think of one match that Jimmy has won on his own, since getting back with them. So for him, it's been a much longer losing streak. But in the case of Solo, he didn't start losing until after he beat Cena. Then all of a sudden, he just started losing. So, is this a resurfacing moment for Solo with Tama Taka? Like, does this mean Solo, is going to start getting some W's again? It's going to be very interesting to see the direction they go with this. But I really just wanted to talk about this because it was a very shocking moment for me of the night with this exploding in the way that it did. And to top it off, like I said, overall, it was a very good, solid show. Um, Triple threat, AJ Styles wins. I definitely think AJ's beating LA Knight without question next week. Um, and he won it in a smooth fashion with two Styles clash on the top rope on Ray onto Kevin Owens. Really good main event. Bailey got her, moment thanking the fans for being along with her journey the last 11 years or so, and, you know, issuing a challenge for Naomi. Naomi had a solid match with Tiffany Stratton and beat her, and now it looks like they're fighting for the championship next week on SmackDown. Big moment for Bailey, though. Bailey is definitely. I'm glad that, even though she's not back to the hug, I don't think she could ever go back to that at this point because she's, transformed her character so much. But, you know, they definitely have done a good job with just, keeping her, with her craft continuing because it sounded like she once again, had to change her theme music. But I like it, though. I really like it. Um, but yeah, man, it's quite the night. You know, some of the matches were what they were, but it's definitely a new chapter. And yeah, I mainly just want to come and talk about that, but take nothing away from the rest of the night at all. So that's pretty much it, guys. Jay Cargill and Bianca beat Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Chelsea Green once again gets pinned by Jay Cargill again after Raw. So I thought that was pretty funny. I think Bianca and Jay could definitely, be a tag team, and you start building some more teams up for those titles, I think that would definitely be something to see there. But yeah, sign off Ray Master Flex. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the day. Peace.